Hi guys, it's me Karen from Karen's Intuitive Jewelry. We're gonna make a cuff bracelet today since I'm waiting on a product I recently ordered. It should be delivered today. They're titanium clips and they come in strips, kind of similar to this, I'm guessing, and then you shape them. And this will be new for me too, because I've never used them or had them, or I've only seen other people use them, but they're evidently to help you kind of make shapes with them to keep, they help keep things in place. What I'm getting them for is hopefully they'll help me with the ring bands on the back of the bezels. As y'all saw, I had some trouble with a couple weeks ago and almost gave up, but you guys are so encouraging that I decided I was just taking a break and had to do some more research. So I'm waiting for those to be delivered, but I thought in the meantime I would practice on a similar design with a cuff bracelet. But the band or the bracelet cuff is so much larger that maybe I'll have better success, you know, when it comes down to soldering them onto the back of the stone bezel. So that's what we're going to make today. This is copper. It's just got the protective film over it yet. I don't want to take it off yet. I got these on Amazon. I think they're 8 inches long. They're rounded on the end and they'll be formed into the shape of a cuff bracelet. And then if that works out, I can go back to even using the smaller stones and bezels. So I think, you know, if nothing else, going with a larger shank, whether it's for a ring, I think this would be too big for a ring, but yeah, anyway, I'm thinking out loud. So what we're going to need initially, we've got these blanks, bracelet blanks. These are copper. I think I got 6 of them for $10 or something. And then we've got some copper bezel wire. This is the gallery wire, and this design is called a swag. I think kind of they name it a swag, like the old lamps that had this shape where the chain. Anyway, what helps, and I learned this also, when you're forming the wire around your stone, they're all slippery and all that. Somebody suggested you get an old business card. This is like a plastic one from the cable company or internet company. You can put some double-sided tape on there, or even if you don't have double-sided, you just fold over a regular Scotch tape. I actually put tape on both sides so the card would not move as well. And then you put your stone on the other sticky side so it doesn't move around, right? Yay, that was a good little tip. And then you, obviously I already cut it out, but I'll show you. And you never want to start well, you don't want to end, in other words, solder it at a point or anything like that. So you always want to start it on a kind of a straight side. So again, I know I reviewed this before, but it never hurts to review again. You just hold in this, and this card with the tape on it really does help. So you form it around, such as that. I'm going to zoom in even further. And then what you would do from there is, you see where they fold over, they cross over down here. You want it to cross over a little bit, and then some people use a little scratching tool. Some use these fine-tipped Sharpies, which is what I use. And then you mark it just a tad from where it overlaps to give yourself enough room. So I'm probably 1 millimeter, maybe 2, from where they actually join, so that then you have that marked and you straighten it back out, because these are super, super soft. And then you would use the flush end, right, of your flush cutter to cut the end of it so it'll be straight. I'm not going to cut this again because I did this already with this. And then what I've noticed is when you use this flush cutter, some of them leave like a squished end, but this is the Xuron, it cuts really clean. So I haven't needed to do a lot of filing, but again, the ends need to match up perfectly. And you kind of go over on the top, under on the top. You're trying to create like a spring action to when you do put them together, they have a little bit of, what's it called? Resistant forces. So they want to stay together. So that looks pretty clean to me. And it's flat on the bottom. Right, so that looks like it's good to go to be soldered. So I'm going to go ahead and do that next. Also, you guys know me, I typically don't do just one piece at a time. So I've also got this gorgeous rose cut aquamarine ready to go, and already cut out the bezel. And you can see it still is too big. I intentionally cut it, right, a little bit too big so that I can cut it down if I need to. And before I start anything, I make sure my torch is working good and refilled it with the butane from the bottom, just like you would do a lighter. And then you let this sit for a couple of minutes, just so there's all the fumes, you know, evaporated. And now I'm gonna get my hard solder, the one that's the highest melting temperature, and cut off or get out a pallion or two, or a pallion for each. And you can see they're itty bitty. It's just such a challenge. Just noticed I have a couple other pieces of solder out here, but I'm guessing they were left over from yesterday, which tells me they're probably easy solder, because that's usually your last step, and that's the lowest melting point. Of course, that's just of the 3 different solders that I use. I use easy, medium, and hard. And I try to keep them separate because it matters. And then let's see, we're going to, so I got my hard solder out here. One for each, and using the AquiFlux self-pickling hard soldering seems to work well for me. I've actually found this little thingy I can use because I was spraying it and it's a pain. So now I can just put it where I need it. Sometimes it's more than I need, as you just saw. I'm still learning. And I'm going to heat this up so that this doesn't bubble anymore. You'll see a lot of people talk about your solder pieces jump. Well, that's why, because the flux bubbles and makes your solder pieces jump. So if you just heat it up, it won't do that because it'll already have done the bubbling. And now I just have to carefully put my solder on there, on the seam. And I have to remember where this one was. There it is. Because it's really hard to see. This one, I'm showing you two different ways. On this one, I have the bezel turned up on its side and the solder on the seam. On this copper one, I'm going to put the piece of solder down and place the the bezel seam right on top of the solder. Okay. And here we go. And you'll be looking, if you can see, we'll do this copper one first. You see where that little pallion is, right? You'll see it kind of flash when it melts. And you don't want to heat the piece itself, you heat all around it. That's what these charcoal blocks are good for. I just moved that little plastic baggie out of the way because it might have gotten melted if I had just taken one swipe. So you melt all around it until everything gets hot, and then the solder will just whoop right up into the seam. In a second now. Solder's getting really bright. You can see how red hot that copper is. And I'm not sure why it's not melting. Let's keep it real. Let's try that again. I way overheated that, but you saw it did not melt. Hopefully it was just a matter that it wasn't touching. Come on. Wow. It's not going. Try that again. I just put a little bit more flux. This is the stuff that you have to deal with. And it's sitting right on it. I don't know why it's not going up there. Still not going. Okay, I'm going to go over to the silver one and see if we have a little bit better success over here. So be watching for that little pallion that I put on the seam. Just melt it. And then we will pick this up. Put this in the pickle. In the... Yeah, weird. The pallion's still there. I'm going to move it to a different spot. One here. See if we have better luck somewhere else. Location-wise. Put a little drop there. Make sure I have it on the seam. And try this one last time for you. You can see what should be simple isn't always. There we go. And while these bezels are in the pickle, I'm going to cut out the back plates. And this aquamarine is going to be on sterling silver. You can see this is pretty much all the silver sheet I have left. And I'd like to order more, but I just had to have my vehicle in the shop to the tune of $1,000. And my property taxes are due. Just got that in the mail yesterday. I usually pay it right away, but I may have to, do that a little bit longer. But anyway, I'm going to cut out the back plate for that. I have plenty of copper sheet because that was what I was planning on doing, was doing lots of practice on copper. So I'm going to cut these out and I'll show you how to do that. So I do this at my kitchen counter. I work at my dining room table, which is over there. And then I do my sawing and my stamping and whatnot here. You can see I have my bench pin, they call that, mounted to the kitchen counter. And for y'all that don't know, this is one of the basic standard jeweler's saws. And you can see how itty bitty the blades are. They come in packs like this, and they're numbered, so it kind of matters what size your metal sheet is. I'm using a 3/0, they call it, but you can see it's smaller than a pin, smaller than a needle. It's crazy. What am I thinking? Anyway, you gotta get that. Yeah, the first time I got one of these and I got it in the mail and I tried to do it, I couldn't even get the blade in. And I'm like, that's it, I can't do it. I give up so easy. But anyway, I'm new to this. And y'all saw just my last video. I did my first open back bezel, which is using the jeweler saw to cut out an open back. So you have to drill a hole in the metal plate because it started out like this. You have to drill a hole and then you have to take this out of here and you slide that little blade through the hole and then you saw all around. Yeah, and then you got to file it. Anyway, so here we go. And then this is some beeswax for lubrication. And I got the extra blades out in case they break, because they can break quite easily. Let's see. Oh, the other thing I wanted to show you was, I'm going to do the sterling silver plate first, if I can get this to keep from doing that. And when you saw or file or anything, you're actually wasting sterling silver, because all that filing and sawing creates, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, dust, silver dust. And it was my youngest son who told me about, I guess this was many years ago, like a pauper in New York City who stumbled onto or into the district in New York City where all the metal jewelry, the high-end jewelry makers, factories and warehouses were, and he started sweeping the sidewalks and ended up with so much precious metal, silver, gold, brass, not so, you know, good, but like platinum and the precious metals. And he started taking them to a refinery and he got rich. He got rich from sweeping the sidewalks. And so, yeah, you can find that story online. And I had never heard that. So that's what this is silver dust. And I have a little container, I have it marked, because eventually, like with all the scrap metals too, because when you cut things off, cut things out, cut things off, you get a whole slew of scrap metal. Even if it's just one little snip, save it. And then there's places you can send all this stuff into. I need to have way more than this to be worth it. And they'll melt it down and make more sheet for you, or make wire, or just give you money for it. You know, it's a lot, but I'm not near that. That's for legit makers. Okay, hopefully you can see this good enough. Knocking the dust off. I don't want to waste it. It helps if you can really have a good hold on the metal. It just goes faster and it's easier. And with this, a lot of people have struggled, and I thought, oh my, I'm gonna have a terrible time. They say the best thing to do is hold it upright. So you're sawing upright, not this way or that way. And to have a light grip and try to relax your shoulders, which, because of my neck, I'm always super tight. But I've actually found that I understand what they're talking about, and I haven't really had a problem with it. Ta-da! I don't know, can you see the dust in there? So kind of quite a bit of dust just for that little bit of sawing. So imagine cranking out 10 pieces a day, every day, how much silver you'd have. And again, I see dollar signs. Now, when I do the copper, I'm not going to collect it like that, but I do just put a piece of paper down so that the shavings will fall on that, and then I can carry that over to the trash. So this one, I'm just going to cut it straight across. A little challenging here because the majority of it is out of my reach. And believe it or not, it's kind of tough to get a straight line. And I don't know if you can see, but there's a little notch right here that I'm having to deal with, and so that's why I was really wanting to go this way, but then, all right, let's try that. And your first line is kind of, or your first is kind of your guide to get going. You can see it's a little bit harder because I can't get a good grip on it. Okay, there's that one. And then here's just the dust that came off of that. I don't know if you can see, but I'm gonna just throw that in the trash. And while we're at it, we might as well go ahead and I'll put my initials on it and the 925 sterling silver stamp. Look how little bitty that is. So I think I'm gonna start trying to mark these things because oftentimes I get it all wonked out. So about here, this is about the center, and I want it about there. So my middle letter will be there, and then the 925 stamp can go there. Okay, and then we have to use some painter's tape. Hold this down. And I'll start with the eye on that mark. Excuse the mess up here. It's getting quite bad. And I'm trying not to beat the hell out of this. Yes, I have that tendency. So a little lighter knock should do. But if you guys have never tried metal stamping, you should give it a try. It's not really easy. At least I have not found it to be so. Whoa, almost had that upside down. That would have been great. And let's see. I'm looking for the 925. There's the, okay. Right about there. And then on the copper one, let me just show you. I'm getting better. Now that K could have been over more, but they're pretty level. On the copper one, I'm not going to stamp the back plate because that's going to be, I mean, I could do it above or whatever, but I think I'll just stamp the inside of this bracelet blank when we get there. Okay, I'm gonna go grab the bezels out of the pickle. And in case anybody's asking, isn't it easier just to use shears or scissors, which I used to cut the sheet metal instead of that saw? But that's what the pros use, and now I know why. You know, I am continuing my education, but it's just when you use shears, you have a tendency to distort and twist the metal. So that was adding to the difficulty I had of actually soldering the bezel onto the back plate, because you know it has to be a tight fit. So the plate, the sheet metal wouldn't be laying completely flat. So if you use a saw, you're not distorting it by cutting it. You know, even if you cut paper, it's moving and all that stuff. So that's really helped a lot. Even though I recently did get some real shears that cut much easier than just some scissors I was using. I just thought I'd add that in too. This is going to be, I think, a long tutorial, and I apologize, but it's the first one of its kind of using a torch to make a bracelet. So there's lots of things I wanted to cover with you guys. Okay, let's check and see if the bezels fit the stones. Yay, that's a tight fit. And of course they get wonked out, and sometimes you have to reshape them. And hope that you didn't mismeasure. And I think we're okay. Got actually a little play in this one, which is fine. It won't be too much. And that's really just because of the point. Okay, I'm happy with that. And now I'm taking y'all's advice, and I'm gonna take a break before I do the next step, which will be soldering the bezel onto the back plate. But that's what's next. And I may do it later tonight, or I may wait and do it tomorrow. Isn't that a pretty apatite, or apatite they call it? Isn't that a gorgeous stone, guys? Woof! And of course, love this aquamarine. So that's going to be a pendant. This is going to be the bracelet. I think it's going to look cool. And like I say, I'm hoping to have better success because it's a much bigger area that I can hopefully line up better, if you know what I mean. It won't be so small. But we'll see. Okay. I'll see you in a little bit. Oh, and look, this just came in the mail today. This is those titanium clips I was telling you about, that you can make them in any shape really you want, and it's just to help keep pieces in position. And I'm not sure about what shapes I need to make, and I even seen some where they file the corners down to it's even a little point, and it's just, some of them are just gonna be like this, and some of them will clip this way. So we'll see what I can come up with. Maybe I'll use them in this project with the bracelet, but we shall see. But yeah, they were $21 for 10 pieces, and I got them, of course, on Amazon. Titanium clamps for soldering. So I'll let you guys know. Okay, guys, I meant to get back to this this morning. It's Saturday, but I threw a load of laundry in and had a major plumbing issue. My sink backed up, my tub backed up. So that's what I've been dealing with all day. I got it under control at least, and the plumber will be out tomorrow morning to the tune of $275 per hour because it's weekend. Of course, that's when it happens. So I'm a little stressed out. As I think I mentioned, I just had my car in the shop. That was $1,000. And so I'm gonna move ahead and may or may not get very far, but we'll see. I can at least show you this part. This is where we evaluate how tight the bezel fit is for the soldering, because I know I've mentioned it to you before that it's got to be touching, that this kind of solder will not fill the gaps. Can you see the light shining through there? And if I put my finger on it gently, it closes that gap. Well, that gap has to be closed because the solder won't fill that gap. And so that will be the next part. So that's the copper one. Let's see what's happening with the silver one. And these are the details that I try to express the complication of. This one's, the gap's even bigger. You see? So this bezel is not lying flat. The sheet appears to be flat on this one. So we've got to resolve that. On this one, I can maybe hammer the sheet a little bit. Let's see if the fit's any better on this side. Not really. And it doesn't look all that bad, but yeah, I'm gonna try just hammering it with a soft rubber mallet to see if, because of course you don't want to beat the hell out of it because it could make it worse. And always do both sides. And this is just in case. See if that helped at all. Not really. So the next phase is I have to sand the bottom of the bezels, and hopefully that'll get it more level. And I'm going to give the tops of these sheet metals a little sanding too. So this is a wet dry sandpaper, a 400 grit, and I put just a couple of little drops of water on it. And I'll show you what we're gonna try to do with the bezel. Is you gotta hold lightly because you don't want to wonk it all out again, and you kind of go in a figure 8, they say. And when I say they say, the more experienced people on YouTube, because this is where I've learned all this. I'm taking classes. I'd love to take classes, but I don't have the money to do that. So we're hoping that this will help. And you can rotate it and come at a different side. And let's see if that made any difference. It helps for sure. And like I said, the cutting with the jeweler saw instead of using shears helps too. So it's better, as you can see. Now, the metal will sink down slightly when it's heated, because that's what annealing is. It softens the metal and allows it to kind of set in. So this might be okay, but I'm gonna do it a little bit more. So that's what I'm gonna do on both of these, okay? And I don't need to waste any more time. You just watching me do this, right? Just want you to know that this is the next step and why we're gonna do it. And I'm also gonna just, because the sanding of the metal piece helps rough it up a little bit, and the connection might be a little bit better. Plus it it removes any oils or what have you. So that's why we do that as well. Okay, I'm going to do that and be back. I'm going to start with the copper bezel, and you can see I'm using these 2 third arms or third hands, since that connection on its own, even after sanding, was showing a slight gap. I'm using these to apply a little bit of pressure, and it's closed that, so hopefully that'll help a lot. And I'm just going to go ahead and spray some flux on there. I'm going to burn the flux off, then I'm going to place my solder in place and re-solder or re-torch it. Okay, so you know what I'm doing. So just burning the flux off. Turn the torch off. Apply my little pieces of solder. I cut some of these in half. I'm trying to learn to use less solder. It's more about the connection than how much solder. Because you sure don't need very much solder at all. And so I haven't yet dealt or formed those titanium clips. I just didn't feel like I had it in me to do that, and that's why I'm using these. But they tend to get distorted, and they don't hold as well. And specifically, I'm looking for more help with the ring band, because this is the stuff I was using with the ring bands, and it just doesn't work as well. Okay, the solder looks like it's good, so here we go. We're going to be looking for the solder to flash. And I'm heating all around the metal so I don't melt the actual bezel. Some people like to heat from underneath, but that's kind of what that charcoal block is for, because it gets so hot. There it goes. Hold it on there a little bit longer to make sure it's flowing all around. Okay. Then I will release that. I'm not touching those clips with my hands, but using a tweezer to release them, because they will be hot. And hopefully it's a good connection, but I really won't be able to tell until after it's pickled. I can show you that it looks like it is, because see that silver line all the way around? It looks like it's a good connection, but I have had it to where it was deceiving, because there's so much junk on it that can't get a really good look until it's all cleaned up again. But I think it worked well. So I'm going to move on to the silver bezel. Doing the same thing, spraying some flux, burning that off. Applying the little pallions of solder. I have to support my arm like this so I don't shake. And then I take my little pick and make sure that that solder is touching both the back plate and the bezel so that it knows I want it to flow in between those two. Even though I'm learning that that's not always super important if you have good torch control, because solder follows the heat. And if you got good torch control, then you can actually tell the solder, the flowing solder, where to go. But because I don't have great torch control, I do everything I can to get the benefits of, you know, the techniques. Anyway, let me zoom in a little more so you can see what I'm doing and not necessarily have my hand in the way. Here we go. And release this using tweezers or pliers because these are hot. And then put this in. Oops. The quenching pot. Okay, I'm going to throw them in the pickle. And I just did the stamping. This will be the inside, right? And I think I did better even this time. Really taking my time to find the center. So just like anything else, the more practice you do, the better you get. It's still not perfect, but I'm okay with that.